Greetings and welcome back to room 303 in our Chats with Emily, as we are calling our readings through the Johnson edition of the collected poems of Emily Dickinson. We turn now to little poem 205, I Should Not Dare to Leave My Friend. Now, when this poem was published in 1891, the collectors called it Till the End. And I find this a fascinating poem, especially in terms of the way it's constructed with all of these repetitions, as we'll see here in a moment. Now, our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net. Down that left-hand side, again, Chats with Emily, our playlist. I'm hopeful that you've already worked through our set of introductory comments. I'm hopeful as well that you were able to work through the previous 204 poems. We just finished with a slash of blue. Now, in a letter, letter number 86 of 1852, Emily said this about the whole notion of being there when a dying person is dying. And we've already seen this a number of times in earlier poems. She says it this way, quote, again, this is from 1852, I look at my father and mother and Vinny and all my friends and I say, no, can't leave them. What if they die when I'm gone? Now, there's always been a debate, as we've mentioned so many previous lectures, about why it is that Emily becomes this recluse who does not travel, who doesn't go very far. She only has a handful of trips in her whole life. One argument has to do specifically with this idea. She wanted to remain very close, so that way if she lost anyone who was close to her and her family or whatever, that she would be available. This poem will play a similar kind of game. Let's just enjoy the language and notice the repetition, and I'm going to challenge you to think about the repetition as almost feeling like breaths, especially the breaths of someone who is soon to expire. You decide how powerful this poem feels from that perspective. I should not dare to leave my friend because if he should die while I was gone and I, too late, should reach the heart that wanted me, if I should disappoint the eyes that hunted so to see, and could not bear to shut until they noticed me. If I should stab the patient faith, so sure I'd come. It, listening, went to sleep, telling my tardy name. My heart would wish it broke before, since breaking then were useless as the next morning sun where midnight frosts had lain. Now I find this a remarkable little poem in the construction. In other words, if I should be gone when someone I care about is passing. Now, guys, we got to point out again, Emily lived in a time where most of the time you didn't go to the doctor came to you. Where you didn't die in a hospital hooked up, for example, to all kinds of machines that would monitor your passing right to the very last moments of breathing and of course, brain energy. But rather, you died at home. And so you wanted people close by, right? Emily, of course, knew her John Donne's valediction forbidding mourning and those opening lines about that passing, that individual, as virtuous men pass mildly away and whisper to their souls to go, while some of their sad friends do say, the breath goes now, and some say, no. Emily knew a set of lines like that, and so that's standing in some regards here. Notice the power of should, notice the power of if. In other words, speculative. I should not dare, and follow her use of this word, it's compelling, to leave my friend. Now, of course, we're always going to be asking about who's she talking about, what friend? Because, and then notice the dash, because it's almost like she's catching her breath. It's almost as if the individual who's expiring also will breathe a certain way. Because if he should die, again, notice the power of if in this poem, and again, he, the friend who, while I was gone, and I, this idea of too late. Now, you'll remember this from poem 90, and this idea of too late, and of course the tragic tendencies of that as well. That you'll remember this in poem 90, our list that we shared with you about too late. Poems, of course, after 205. We're going to see this again in 236, in 623, in 1012, in 1449, and in poem 1637. And you can run all of those to ground. But this idea of too late for striving fingers that passed an hour ago is the way that she plays the game in poem 90. She says it this way: because if he should die while I was gone, and I, too late, should reach the heart. Now we're going to come back to heart, of course, at the end of the poem. So the genius of this poem is playing around with the idea of heart. That wanted me. In other words, a person is dying. They're longing to see Emily. Again, who this is, we're not sure. And I need to be there for them. If I should, we're back to the if I should disappoint the eyes, the idea here being, of course, that the possibility of, I don't want to disappoint. That hunted, and then again, hunted so to see. In other words, she imagines somebody. Who could it be? Her father or anybody else? Who's looking for her? Where's my Emily? Where's my Emily? The eyes are hunted, right? And these eyes could not bear to shut until they, notice in quotation marks, noticed me. They noticed me. Now, why the quotation marks around the first notice and not the second will forever be a question, right? We just don't know. But clearly this concerns her. I need to be there at the passing. And then again, if I should stab the patient faith. Now, this use of the word stab is to me compelling. These are the moments in Emily's work where we're just kind of blown away. When we get to poem 237 here in a little bit, it will be the last line: stab the bird that built in your bosom. Oh, could you catch her last refrain? Bubble, forgive, some better. Bubble, carol for him. When I am gone. Here it's stab the bird. Here it is simply stab the patient faith. And I think the word patient is the key word of this poem. In other words, someone is waiting patiently who is expiring, waiting for Emily. She never shows. So sure I'd come, so sure I'd come. The repetitions are powerful. It, listening, and the it here could be the heart, could be the patient faith. Listening, went to sleep. And we're back, of course, to this biblical reference. Christ often will refer to sleep as death, or as death as sleep, right? Went to sleep, telling my tardy name. And of course, telling here can be understood as repeating, right? And of course, the repetitions make sense. In other words, as someone expires, they would be saying, where is my Emily? Where is my Emily? And in some ways, this seems to haunt her. I don't want that to happen. Someone I care for, I'm not there at their passing, that will bother me. To finish, now we're back to hearts. My heart, not their heart, but now my heart. My heart would wish it broke. Notice we go from stabbing to broke. Broke before, since breaking then, the repetitions in these second lines are remarkable, were useless, and then an interesting simile, as next morning's sun where midnight frosts had lain. You'll remember this use of the word lain in poem 187, and that last word there, you'll remember a number of poems playing with this word lain. Poems 40 and 132 and 205 and 333 and 449 and 952, 1209, 1288, and 1490. This as well, use of the word lain here is, of course, the idea that the person who has passed now cannot move. Well, what are we going to do with a poem like this at 2A? Well, I think her argument is that it's hard to not be present at the passing of a pal, a friend, as she calls him. At 2B, well, the word choice of stab is brilliant, I think, and of course patience, as well as these repetitions, which when you read this poem, it does have that tendency of somebody who is playing around with the end of their life breathing, which immediately makes us think about the great poem by Robert Frost, Out. We've given full lectures on it at learnstrong.net. Little, then less than nothing. You'll remember as we talked about the power of using language to kind of give you a sense of the experience of the breath dying. And then, of course, even think about Frost's death of a hired man as it relates to a poem like this as well. To be there with someone, or not to be with them when they expire. Finally, at 3b, how are we going to own a poem like this? Who is a person in your life that you would want to be present at their passing? And who is a person in your life that you would want at your passing? That is to say, your eyes would look for theirs. It's a powerful question. Thank you.